welcome everybody. It's Now That's Debatable, episode 3 of season 2. The topic's going to be Is Religion Required for Morality? I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our main page because we have a couple changes going on. And that's going to bring up our new image set. So I have everybody's names up on the screen now. I have Relic Media constantly on the screen. I have our lovely spinning Earth going on in the background. And I still have our chat up. So hopefully that looks okay. If anyone can see it, let us know in the chat, in the comments, etc. And in the meantime, before we get started, my co-host has changed their name. So what used to be Geocentric Skeptic is now AAA the Humanist. So take it away and go ahead and plug Relic Media since they are doing a lovely job promoting us. We would love to promote them.
Yes, yes,
So
yes. If you start, just starting a new podcast, you want to get off the ground, come to Relic Media. You can hit us up. You can hit Relic Media up directly. You can go visit the website. You'll learn more about the process and how to get your podcast on and get a larger audience.
sweet,
Cool.
easy enough. Chat's up on the screen.
And
Um,
I'm sharing.
you should be sharing. I have everybody's name up, so if anyone in chat, because last time there was a little, uh, someone said let the bald man speak, and the only two people that you can see their faces of are both bald. So now you can kind of determine who's who if you don't know who we are yet.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
why I'm wearing a fitted cap now.
yeah,
If you
that'll
see
make that a little
bald,
easier.
you know exactly who you're talking to.
Yes. And we have chat up, so if anyone asks a question, we'll try to get to that. If we're kind of in the middle of discourse, we will use that as either a pause break or use that as just an opportunity to uh, kind of take on that question and go from there. Also, if you'd like to join us as a guest on the show, feel free to reach out in chat, comments, email. There's a number of ways that you can reach us. Forgive me, I have meant to respond to this text for like an hour. So, Triple Eight, would you like to get us started? Or actually, I think
Well,
maybe
Morpheus,
Morpheus.
I wanted him to just give like a little brief presentation on his view, kind of like what we did last week, and then I will tell you our thoughts on what you said. Morpheus, you there?
Got it.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here. And once again, I appreciate the opportunity. Um, I guess I would start by saying this. The issue with this subject is not, and so I want to just clarify because I understand that there's a title to this podcast, but I also want to clarify my point here because it's a little bit more nuanced than just the proposition that was given in the beginning. Um, my issue is not that you can't be moral without religion. Um, it's that without religion there's a void, and I am very skeptical in terms of human beings being able to create their own ethic and morality. It's very difficult. And so I'll start with this. I'll give a little bit of background, a little bit of some education that I've had, which has guided me towards this perspective, and then I'll turn it back over to you guys. So, first of all, I grew up in the Bible Belt, Southern Baptist, and I quickly realized the kind of um, illogical aspects of religion early on. And I moved towards, I was very kind of anti religious for a while. But when I got to college, I had a really great professor who kind of explained to me what one kind of prolific philosopher thought about the topic. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche. And Nietzsche's kind of his offering to the philosophical world to a certain degree was, and what he's famous for is this quote, God is dead. And many people misunderstand that quote because the essential argument or issue that Nietzsche was proposing was that the Enlightenment might have removed or given the option for legacy theological views to be undermined. But the real problem that modernity would have would be how they would replace God. And as we all know, in the 20th century, a lot of what Nietzsche predicted which would be an issue, played itself out, specifically within the ideological um, issues revolving around World War II and all the different ideological components, whether it be fascism, totalitarianism, communism, um, Marxism to a certain degree. And so later on in my life, I kind of became a little bit more sympathetic towards religious people because, in my mind, trying to just remove religion and remove all of the different religious, um, religious or theological doctrines or disciplines throughout the world, whether it be Islam or Buddhism or Christianity, the Abrahamic religions, etc. Um, I'm just not sure that humanity at large could bear that burden very well. And I think that that's, like I said, it it's shown itself in the 20th century, and then moving forward, the jury's still out on this. I'm not sure what the end result is. I think right now in the United States, the secular community of individuals, which include myself, but um, I'm still skeptical about this. But the secular kind of group of individuals in America, at least today, just talking about the United States, happens to buy into a lot of liberal ideology, a lot of ideology that was proven to be disastrous in the 20th century. And I wonder if trying to take on some type of ideology and replace a religion is any better. My perspective right now is that it's not any better, and that the people who claim to have science on their side, which is exactly what Hitler did actually with eugenics and Mein Kampf, because eugenics, um, you know, influenced him a lot, which came from the West actually, and then made its way promulgated into Europe. But anyway, the point is um, thinking that you have science on your side and being dogmatic about your views is no better than Christianity or Catholicism or Judaism or whatever. It's just the same thing. It's just cloaked in something different. That was Nietzsche's concern. I think I agree with him. That's my concern. And so um, that's kind of where I'm at right now with this specific opinion.
Okay, so
Can I jump in real quick before we go too
yeah.
much further because I think it's going to be important. Um, can you define morality for me?
Well, I would define morality as a set of values.
Is that it? That's the end of the definition.
I mean,
Because
generally speaking, morality morality is what your morals are. Your morals have to do with your values and what you value in the world.
Sure, but like if I mean generally speaking, like if let's say I valued murdering people, gen, generally you wouldn't consider that like morality, right? It would
Mm,
it's some sort of like system, right?
well,
otherwise, like I feel like on
Yep.
its face that your whole argument's kind of null because any set of values means that you have morals.
typically speaking, in the realm of philosophy, moral philosophy has to do with values as it pertains to, um, I would say, similar to right notions of right and wrong, good and evil, good and bad, and also to a certain degree, uh, probably a layer um, of preference as well. But I mean, you have moral philosophy, obviously, which argues for what's good and bad. You have different. You can the way that academics do is they slice philosophy up into different pieces. You have metaphysics, you have aesthetics, you have moral philosophy, and so generally speaking, if you've been to college, which we all have, when it comes to moral philosophy, we're talking about what's good and bad, right and wrong.
How about this? What do you think is like the ultimate goal of morality?
It would depend on um, the context in which you ask that question. So, when it
So,
comes to human beings, as a
hmm
secular humanist,
Human morality. Yep.
yeah, as it comes when we look at the context of human beings, morality is about prospering in the most beneficial way, quote unquote, um, the most prosperous existential, position that you could put yourself in as a society. Um,
So
and that's
it's,
obviously very debatable, but
but no, I generally agree. So from there,
Can
what
I
you
clarify one thing though?
sure go ahead.
So does it have to be societal or can it be individual? Because if not, there's no difference in that in hedonism.
well, the issue with that proposition is that human beings live in society. So actually, they're intertangled. There's a relationship there. What is moral for one person is not going to necessitate, sorry, the morality that may exist within society, right? So we have societal norms, we have social constructs, is what they call them, and some of those are moral, some of them are not. And I mean, this is a really complicated topic, obviously. I mean, it depends on your framework too. Morality has a bunch of different frameworks. There's deontological framework, there's consequentialist framework. It really depends. And so that's where and this is part of the reason why I'm arguing the position I have is because it's very complicated, and for most people, it's just easier to fall back on a theological construct versus
So,
one that's made up on your own.
okay, so you when I had asked you like for the goal of morality, you had talked about just like prosperity. Like I like to use the term well-being.
Yeah, that works.
You don't think you don't think that people you don't think like the average person is capable of deciding what's in the best interest of his well-being without a religion telling him? Like for instance, like so I have a little girl, right? And so if she's hungry, I know to give her food. If she's sick, I know to give her medicine, right? So because I have her well-being concern, I can make decisions that is more or less conducive to that. I don't see why I need a religion to tell me. I feel like the average person would be able to do this.
Well, that's just one example. There's lots of examples where you can fall into traps, and humans do this all the time. In fact, I mean, so first of all, from a biological perspective, we all have our fundamental drives, and
Mm-hmm.
those can be problematic in themselves. Um, and so, I mean, that's just one driver, right? You got a bunch of drivers. Just because you're an adult and you're decently educated and you happen to exist in the United States where we tend to have somewhat congruent or parallel values to the Abrahamic faith, because that's what the founders and everyone else has kind of built the system around. Not that it's exact, but to a certain degree, it's influenced. Doesn't take away from my proposition, which is that left to our own reason, which is even problematic in itself because people don't tend to use reason. I mean, it's a rarity to a large degree. I mean, we're an anomaly. I think us three at least, to the extent that we're willing to think through things and talk through things. A lot of human beings don't want to talk through things. It's uncomfortable. And so my point is that the problem that Nietzsche brought up and that was realized in the 20th century and that we're dealing with today is that human beings struggle with open and honest criticism of reality and trying to live a moral and ethical life. And if you just leave that on the shoulders of human beings in the absence of anything else, what we tend to fall back on is ideology, not necessarily truth.
Okay. Before we go ahead, Joseph asked the question, "Who defines morality?" My opinion, humans define morality. I don't know who else there would be to define it.
I
So,
agree. Morality is an enterprise of human beings.
so
The problem with that is um, when it comes, the issue is that a lot of, and this is like a famous issue with philosophers too, like some of the greatest ethical and moral philosophers of all time were some of the shittiest human beings. And that's kind of a known thing in the philosophy community. It's also kind of a joke that people have in the academic environment. And it's true, you have like Heidegger, for instance, is like this great philosopher that's trying to bring existential or ontology and time and being in place, but he's also affiliated with the Nazi Party. You just have philosophers have great thoughts, but tend to live immoral lives to most people's standards. Um, and the question is, you know, what's the future hold for us and bring for us? And to like I said, I used to be critical of religion, but I look at some
Mhm.
religious people today and I'm like, dang, I mean, these people, they're they're good citizens, right? Like, what
Yeah,
did we do about?
but not
Yeah,
not because of the religion. I just see they could define that within their own best interest. So
well, it's got to
how
be for some reason. Look at Jewish people, for instance.
what
Jewish
what
culture and
you
Jewish
said?
religion has produced some of the most productive people of society of all time. They have the highest Nobel, prize winners. They have, I mean, their culture is about education. It's about, and a lot of times, which is interesting to me, is there's a
But
huge Jewish secular culture.
yeah,
It's all
I
about
know.
looking at.
That's the thing. So but there's nothing intrinsic to their religion that promotes any of that. Sure, they Jews work hard, pretty smart, and like what they have more Nobel prizes than
There's a.
any other ethnic group. That's great. I don't see any part of their religion that helped
You
them
wouldn't say
promote that.
Judaism is a religion?
No, well,
Judaism
I
is
don't
that,
see how
that,
that's.
that yeah, I don't
It
see
is
how
relevant. It is
but
relevant
how did
because
Judaism help
there's a
them? Because
relationship between Jewish people, Judaism, their culture, their values, and their morality. That's all overlapped. You can't just ignore those things.
Well, so my I think maybe it'd be easier to question this is without them being Jewish or of the like from Judaism, wouldn't they still be equally intelligent? Wouldn't they still be working on the same field they'd be working on? Wouldn't they? Like they're not.
No,
I just don't see what they're
you
absolutely
said
losing.
not.
you said no.
Absolutely not. I
So
mean,
how
So
about this?
look,
So,
so
tell me.
so if you
specifically
threw away
because you're born in a certain area, you are of higher
no,
intelligence, or born in a
that has
certain.
nothing to do with it. That's a correlation.
Well,
So
that's
what I'm
exactly what I'm
saying is that
asking. You're
no,
correlating the
it's
fact that they're Jewish with their intelligence or their skill or
I'm
their
I'm
work
cor-
ethic.
so a
These are all things
geographic
that are
location.
unnecessary. I'm gonna get rid of chat for a second because this is annoying and I have to block them on YouTube.
No,
You
you're
go ahead
good.
and respond to that.
No, I'm just saying that geographic location is much different than a whole system of culture and values based off of Jewish principles that have been around for however many years, right? Thousands of years. So I'm saying that to throw that away in place of something else, which we don't even have an answer for, it's just a blank space,
I,
is it's not wise. And
I think
that's kind of my point.
so. Here's the thing. I think we do have an answer for it. So like I
Please tell me, because
sure
I'm seeing some
I
crazy cultural stuff going on
yes.
in
Well,
America, and I don't see an answer for that.
so it's funny like the problems that you pointed out with that happened in the 20th century is it's ironic that you compared it to religion because like the dogma is it was still there. So replacing one dogma with another dogma is still problematic. But
No, that's my
there
point.
yeah,
You're
so
making my point for me,
what
actually.
yeah, well it's still but
That's
what
my
I'm
whole
saying
point.
but what sound like your point was you have to have a dogma.
No, what I'm saying is that human beings, our nature. What I'm saying is that we tend to fall back on bigotry and dogma. It just happens to be part of
Sure.
human
Well,
beings. Yeah.
it but I mean it seems like more and more humans are not doing that. Like
Oh, are you kidding me?
especially when you yeah, especially when you're looking at these more atheistic countries, like in Northern Europe, like in Sweden and Denmark, etc. Like they're like 95% atheists and like have like um like the lowest crime in the planet.
Yeah,
Like the best book.
they're also the most homogeneous, which means there's one race there.
I don't see why that matters. So what would be more
Why?
important?
Why does that matter?
Yeah,
Why does
yeah.
it matter that there's no diversity? There's zero diversity or inclusion or equity or equality.
No. So, but you don't need the diversity of races. You just, I mean, like you don't need like homogeneity of races. You just need
I find
homogeneity.
that hilarious
Dude,
that we would even.
what you need is no. What you need is like a homogeneity of
You
value.
know who? You know a very safe place is
So
too. It's called Japan, and guess how many races
okay,
are in power there? One.
Sure. Because the
How many
race thing,
races are in
no, no,
power
no, no,
here?
no, no. The race thing is totally irrelevant.
It's
What
not,
matters,
because race
yeah,
is
okay.
related.
Let me explain why it's not. Let me explain why it's relevant. Because what you
Okay.
need is values. Like, so if you had a bunch of Japanese people together and they all wanted different things. One wanted to promote the well-being of society. The other one just wanted to force his religion on everybody else. You know, they're not going to be able to live together. But then if you have a black guy and a Japanese person, and they both want the same thing, they're going to be able to work together. The race thing has nothing to do with it. It's about the values.
Oh, there's
That's
100% of things. So here's the thing.
okay. So
This is
how about this? Okay, so you
okay.
have a bunch of black people together and a bunch of white people together, right? And
White is ambiguous. There's lots of different
well,
races within
yeah,
the
black
context of white,
exactly, black is
and
just as
same with black
ambiguous.
too. I would
Yeah,
say that
okay,
too.
but I'm just
Yeah.
saying white and black, right? As in just look at us, right? And so, okay, what I'm saying is like, okay, what is intrinsic to their skin that would make them not be
Nothing.
able to get along?
It
Okay, so
has
that's
nothing to
no,
do with it. It's
so
here's I'll explain
it's
why.
their values. It's their values.
No, exactly. You're right. It is. So we're both right and we're both wrong at the same time. So you're right. There's nothing intrinsic to the skin color. The issue is that if you look at history, there was a relationship between race and ethnicity, culture and values. Those are all related. It wasn't until late in the human history, I would say probably starting in the late 19th century, and then growing
Okay,
mostly in the 20th century. But here's my thing. You cannot just take those things and just chop them up and like put them in pieces and pretend like they're not related. There's a relationship. There's a reason why when someone says I'm from Japan, they don't ask you what's your ethnicity. They know what it is. You're Japanese, right? When someone says you're American, they say, "What's your ethnicity?" "Oh, I'm Chinese. I'm
okay, but
Japanese."
I'm still trying to figure out what is it
Because there's
in
a
your
relationship between
ethnicity?
those values, right? If I say
No,
where are
so
you from?
no, here's the thing. So like, the relationship
You
between
can't
being
disconnect
Japanese,
those.
no, the relationship between being Japanese and having Japanese values is that a Japanese person is likely to live in Japan and have the values of Japan.
Correct.
But if you were to put a black person or a white person there and let them grow up in that society and have the same values, I see no reason why they shouldn't get along.
No, they would get along. I'm
So,
not saying they wouldn't.
all right, so
I'm saying that we cannot just discount that fact. I mean, you're right. You're correct. I could grow up in Japan as a white person, and I could basically have all the cultural values and stuff like that of Japan. The point I'm trying to make is that when you talk about a heterogeneous society where you have multiple different religions, multiple different value sets,
okay, so
that
that's important. But the black, white, Hispanic, Jewish thing, I don't see why that matters. It's about the values.
I 100% agree, and we have to realize
Okay,
that they have different values.
so
Can I
are
go a
you
different
going
direction with
back?
this?
Okay,
But anyway, because we're talking about, yeah, I think we should get back to the original topic.
I'm just kind of gonna go a separate way altogether if I can.
Okay, that's
Uh,
fine.
cool. So you mentioned that religion is necessary for morals, or you think that it's necessary for morals, but then you kind of, when giving your opening, you mentioned that you specifically were from like the Bible Belt in America. Could any religion satisfy having a group of morals, or satisfying the standard for morality? Would
So,
you be opposed
so,
to another religion other than Christianity, for instance, like Wahhabi
Islam.
Muslims, for instance?
well, yeah. So what I said was that religion. What I'm saying is that I don't see us having a good replacement for religion that human beings could all adopt.
Okay,
I
so
think that human beings tend to
I,
fall
I'm
into
going to cut you off there.
yeah.
That's not what I asked. I'm asking,
You
since
asked
there
you
is no
no
religion.
you
No,
made a
no,
statement. You
let
said
me
in the
let me
beginning.
finish. The question was if religion is needed, because you said there's no replacement, so that means religion's needed. Can any religion suffice? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. I don't need a
No, I'm
long
not.
explanation.
I will never. No. I'm going to give an
No.
explanation because I don't believe in yes or no questions. That's
So
completely
I mean, if
ridiculous.
you don't believe in yes or no questions, are you a person?
Sometimes there's yes and no questions. Yeah, if
Okay,
you're talking
so
about
I'm asking a yes or
mathematics.
no question here. I don't need a long-winded explanation. You said religion was the only thing you could think of.
Okay, that's the
So
first thing you're wrong.
that
That's the first.
means
You said this,
no.
and that's what I was trying to explain.
Did
I
you
did not
not
say
say
that.
that there was no substitute for religion?
I didn't say that. You guys are misunderstanding my point. That's literally why I spent 5 or 10 minutes up front explaining it.
That's why I'm asking you, because you either
Okay,
you
then
misexplained
I have
yourself.
to.
Hey,
I
hold on.
I have to be able to explain myself then, because
I don't need you to
I'm not saying.
re-explain the point. I need you to answer the question.
So
But you're
okay,
misstating my point.
all right. Let's just try to stillman him. So
I can answer your second
aside.
question, but let me at
All right.
least clarify the first point.
The fact that
Okay.
you can't answer a yes or no question tells me a lot about this conversation already.
Why? Because it's complex, and I have to give you a complex
No,
answer.
because you said there was no substitute for religion.
No, I said that. That's not what I mean by this whole conversation. Literally, I'm being misunderstood here. Okay. Of course, I have a replacement. I'm not religious. I have a replacement. You have a replacement. Of course, there's a replacement.
Okay, so
We have
why
an
is it
ethic.
necessary?
We have a moral. What's up?
So why would it be
So
necessary?
Because not everyone can have a replacement like me and you. That's the problem.
do you think like the rest
That's
of
the
society?
whole reason why I'm having this conversation.
Do you think
So
the
the rest of society? Do you think they're just too
they're
stupid,
incapable?
or lazy?
I think it's very difficult to have your own ethic and morality, and that many people will just fall back on ideology. That's my point.
Okay, how about this? Because here's what I see. Like I
What?
know, like the vast majority of the people I know and love are Christian, right? And here's the thing: they actually do have their own moral system. And you look at parts in the Bible when they have, I can just the average person, like for instance, like my father, I can walk through my father's moral system, which is really good, and I can show how it doesn't align with the Bible. What it is that he has a really good moral system that it's already there.
Sometimes.
It's well, yes, yes, it's already innate, right? But he'll look for parts of the scripture to justify it. That's what the average Christian do, right? So like kind of like for instance, like the abolitionist movement, right? So there was a lot of Christians that was fighting to end slavery, and they were using the Bible as a justification. But when you look at the Bible for slavery, it is very pro-slavery. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with
So
you.
yeah, so what it is that they're just they're taking their own moral system and imparting it on the Bible, and a lot of Muslims do the same thing.
They're using
So,
their doctrine as a guide, as a compass to what they believe is morally correct.
but a lot of times their doctrine contradicts their moral system. Like
Sure.
there's nowhere there's not a passage in the Bible that's related to slavery that supports the abolition of it. And the
But
Bible teaches you where you can buy your slaves, how long you can beat them.
but the question
How,
is, for this debate, the question is, I mean, at least in my mind, I could be wrong here, but would we be better off if we got rid of Abrahamic religions and the religions that people rely on? And I think a lot of people, I know personally, this is just anecdotal, but there's been times where I could have told someone what they're saying doesn't make sense, but I knew that if I would have done that, it would have crushed them because they're religious, and I don't know what they would have been able to fall back on because they're not reasonable, logical people. Like, not everyone can sit through and think through, Kant's, you know, um, Kant's, you know,
the categorical and hypothetical imperative.
categorical imperative. Yes.
Yeah. So
Like, not everyone can go through and do that, and I understand that, and I
I
have
don't think you
sympathy for
need to.
people like that.
I don't think you need to. So,
Just
for
a
example,
real quick plug that even though they don't really support us or anything, if that's something that you're interested in, not Kant's categorical imperative, but if you're considering leaving religion, highly recommended Recovering from Religion. It's a website, you can check it out. It talks about some resources that you have that aren't religious. That's all.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So okay, so with
That would be my goal,
So,
by the way.
all right,
I think that would be the best option, but I just don't. I'm a realist in the sense that I don't think a lot of people can actually land on that and actually have a productive life.
so I wanted to go back to a point that you had said earlier that like would society be better off without the religion? So let's take it back to the slavery thing. So 150 years ago, slavery was a very contentious issue. You had Christians on both sides of the argument, right? So the Christians opposed to it were appealing to Enlightenment principles, talking about equality, that we should value everybody and all that kind of stuff. And then you had the Christians that were supportive of slavery, and they had a real foundation on the biblical principles. If you
So I'm
take
not
away
a
if you take away the Bible, they had nothing.
well in this specific scenario. I would reply with this: I'm not a theologian, but my understanding is that the New Testament um, corrected or rectified the issue of slavery,
It
It
and
does
does
that
not.
not.
it
And
does not.
I could tell you for a fact it does not. Matter of fact,
Okay, okay, that's
okay.
probably true. I'm not gonna sit here and defend that because that's probably true
Okay.
because I don't know off the top of my head. But
There's an instance when
usually,
Paul tells a slave to return back to his master.
okay, well then I'm wrong on that one.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of bad things in religion. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and argue that religion has been a force for complete good in the world.
So
I'm
and
just saying that,
here's the thing. So usually when you have some sort of contentious issue that I've seen throughout history, when you
yeah,
have Christians on both sides of the argument, it's the Christians on the good side on the good side, they're appealing to enlightenment principles.
yeah,
And the
I love
Christians on the
enlightenment
bad side,
principles.
they're appealing to dogma.
Yeah, but I love, yeah, yeah, and there's also people that appeal to dogma that aren't Christian. I mean, so the issue
So
is that the issue here is that yes, you have Christians that are intelligent and just like Jewish people, because like I said, you have a huge Jewish community of secular thinkers, which happen to be Jewish. It's weird. It doesn't even make sense. But um, my problem is that what history has shown, and we can discuss this, is that ideology tends to fill the void or the vacuum in terms of the power dynamic when it comes to religion leaving the status that it had in early, 17, I would say before 18th century, because the predominant power structure was either Protestant, Catholic, or or Islamic. I would say those are probably the three predominant ones. And so when in the 20th century you kind of departed from those things, and then in place of those you came into the ideologies. And even in today's society, what I see a huge portion of especially academic America where neo-Marxism is a predominant, I would say, religion of the time. And
so how about this?
that's right on point with what Nietzsche predicted and
So
is a problem.
here's the thing. So you looked at like some of the atrocities that happened in the Soviet Union and in communist China, and you say that is the fault of a lack of religion.
No, it's a fault of ideology.
Well, okay, sure. So let's just get rid of those
So
like ideologies.
what's the commonality between ideology and religion? Well, religion is about faith-based, dogmatic, unquestionable things, and ideology is very similar. They're essentially the same thing, except for that you remove the deity and you replace it with something else. In the case of Marxism, you're talking about the injustice between the proletariat and the
So
bourgeoisie, and in
why not?
neo-Marxism, you're talking
So
about
why not just
the
replace it with
marginalization of the intersectional community, replaced by the class system.
like why not just replace it with nothing? Because with the
Because
atrocities
people
that
don't
we
do that. People are replacing it with neo-Marxism, and they replaced
I
it
mean,
with all the other different
not
doctrines.
not everyone's doing that. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar. Yeah,
The academic institutions of power. Literally, if you look at America,
okay,
there's
so
been plenty of surveys, plenty of polls done. When you look at
okay, no,
academic
hold up, but hold on, hold
institutions,
on.
yeah,
What I'm saying is, so like the dogma of communism and etc. Right? Fight that with reason, with skepticism, with humanism.
we're not doing that
Don't fight it with like a
but we're not doing
nonsensical
that. We're
religion
failing at that.
that promotes slavery and bigotry
I'm not trying to be
and
rude,
all
but
kinds of
part
atrocities.
of the reason we're probably doing that is because of the lack of critical thinking by people who think that a book written 2,000 years ago gives them all the answers.
That's hilarious. I mean, I've seen so many academic institutions where professors,
Have you read
students,
any
I-
papers on critical thinking and how religion stunt it? Because if not, you probably should.
have you seen any academic institution in the United States today? They
About what?
literally
Yeah, I mean,
any
I
yeah
attended one
any
for many
poll
years.
literally any poll any like so if you look at the actual polls and the actual statistics of academic professors right now, the
Mhm.
large majority of those polls show that the
They're
university
non-religious.
professors the university professors are ideological. Interesting. Doesn't matter if you're religious. That's just another
So I
ideology
mean,
in my
like,
perspective. So you're telling me that because our academic institutions are literally like 80% Marxist and leftist,
so
that's not a problem?
okay. So when you say
Because
ideology,
that's an
like okay,
ideology.
Do,
okay, when you like I so like first, like I'm a little confused when you say ideology
It's
because,
not
like,
confusing to a lot of
no,
people.
well, okay, it's confusing to me because, like, for instance, secular humanism is an ideology. I don't have a problem with ideology. What I have a problem with is dogma.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
I'm talking
okay,
about
we'll say dogma because, like, ideology isn't
It's
necessarily a
literally
problem.
just a system of ideas.
Yeah, so,
That's
like, I
it.
mean, like,
okay.
the
Okay, I
scientific method.
apologize. I'll
Okay,
make the clarification. An ideology is a dogma,
okay, sure. So, well, not
and there's a lot
ideology
of them.
isn't a dogma.
No.
Do you mean if you're talking about dogma,
An
then
ideology that's asserted dogmatically, is that better?
okay, sure.
A
All
lot of
right.
people know what I'm
So
talking about.
okay, so any sort of dogma, right? Right? Because, like, I'm not opposed to ideology,
Yeah,
but
but
okay, so but
yeah,
any sort of, like, any sort of dogma, right? So it doesn't have to be replaced with another dogma, and I think the average person is capable of understanding that because, like, because you had said earlier, how,
so many
like,
people
we're
believe things
anomalies,
right now.
we have degrees and stuff. It's not like we have, like, we're so, like, intellectually superior to the average man.
No, but
I think the average person is capable of
they're
making
100%
moral decisions
capable.
without a
I'm
book.
not making that argument. They're 100% capable. The problem is that they're being indoctrinated. They're
By
being
whom
told
or
what to
for
think.
whom?
By whom?
So
By
okay,
the
Yeah.
the
Yes.
academic institutions I just
okay,
referenced. I just told you
okay, hold
80%
on.
of them, and literally to the point where there's been situations in university where professors, biology professors specifically, have been literally had to be protected and escorted out of the university because you have these mobs of people that have these neo-Marxist ideas that are literally, you know, walking around campus with bats. I can send you the information,
Okay,
but
sure.
it's very and also there's a whole stream of, and I know it's anecdotal, but I mean we can't just ignore it. There's a whole stream of of folks reporting that if they say that they're Christian or they say they have other views, they know that there's going to be retributions and repercussions. So what they do in their classrooms in in universities is they just pretend to be left, and that's how
Okay,
they get through their
sure.
classes.
So you
So can
think that there's a large portion of people that their religion
I
is
don't
being
think by the
suppressed?
polls,
Okay. So you have a poll that says that a large
self-admitted.
but can I finish the statement, or are you just gonna answer everything I'm saying before I even get there?
You can finish.
Just
Sorry,
making sure, because it seems like you wanted to talk still. If you want to talk still, you go ahead. I'm still gonna ask my question when it's over.
I'll be quiet.
So what you're saying is, according to polls, people's religious expression is being suppressed throughout academic environments in the United States and potentially the world. Is that what you're saying?
No, there's two things. There's anecdotal evidence,
You
and then
said a
there's
poll.
also
Is there a
I,
poll?
I said two things. That's just the first thing.
Okay, but is
So
that a
there's
correct statement
anecdotal.
according to what you just said?
So there's two
According to what
things.
you, no, I don't need the other one. I'm asking, did you just
That's
say
the
this or
poll.
not?
The other one is the poll, literally.
Okay, so
You can't
yes,
ask me
the
for the
second
poll
one
and
is
then
the
I get
poll, right?
yes. I'm
Okay,
saying there's
that's all I'm
anecdotal
asking.
evidence, and then
That's
there's the
all I'm
poll.
asking, dude. It's not a trap. It's not a
Well, I'm
trap. I'm
giving you
just
the
asking
answer,
you to clarify what you just said. But
and
you're
I'm
incapable of
clarifying it.
doing that without thinking it's a trap, dude.
No, I'm saying
Just take a second. Let me finish a statement and answer my
you asked me to
question.
okay,
answer.
okay,
You
all
asked
right.
me to answer the
Hold on.
question.
All right, all
Well,
right.
There's
So,
I'm
like,
two
asking
let's
you,
parts.
did
enough
you
with the.
refer to a
Hold
poll?
on.
That's it.
Yes, I did.
You referred to a poll.
I
And
did.
you think this poll states that people's religion is being
No,
oppressed throughout educational
no,
societies in the United States. That's what you said this poll says.
that's not what I said. I
Okay,
said
I
there's
give up.
two. I s
I'm officially checked
That's
out of this one. You can go ahead and talk.
Okay.
I'm done because
Okay. All right.
you say one thing and I
Hold on.
literally
Hold on.
can't. I
All right.
can't. If you're not
no.
willing
There's
to
a
say what you're
poll.
willing to
Got.
say, I'm done with
All
it.
right.
You can have it.
If I misspoke, then I apologize. You can run the tape back. Run the tape back. If I misspoke, I
I don't know.
apologize.
I'm
And
done
had
with
a.
it. You guys can have at it.
I
Go ahead.
hold on. All right. So I had a question. So you
I
had
didn't
talked
even.
about the atrocities like in the 20th century, right? So we 20 million dead in Soviet Union, etc. Right. So with before you talked about how Nietzsche had predicted that getting rid of getting rid of religion would bring about, this, I guess, this
Prosperity.
yeah.
Well,
Well, you said
yeah.
prosperity. I thought it was like a bad thing, like a
No, no, no.
moral anarchy.
In his writings, the context of the situation was that people were celebrating the death of God. And what Nietzsche was saying was, hold on a second, what is going to replace it? And what replaced it was not prosperity. You saw it with the Enlightenment in the 20th century, um, when God and real notions of meaningful, objective reality left the stage, because we're talking about the age of reason. What you saw was two things. He predicted nihilism, and then he predicted that something would fill the void. And to most people, I mean, I would say most academic people would say that was the 20th century, right? I mean, there was a sense that we could do what we wanted because of science for the greater good, and that caused a lot of genocide and horrible things. And so, I mean, that's kind of the point I was making. But
So how about
yeah,
this? So like before that, when like almost the entire planet was religious, you were still having the same thing. You were still having genocide and
yes,
a mass
correct,
rape and all that kind of stuff. So like
correct.
so to me,
So why does it matter?
yeah, like I don't
Yeah.
see how it was any
Well, so
religion seemed to not be doing its job.
well, no, I
You
mean, they're
still have the
both
killing.
bad. Yeah, they're both bad. I think the difference is that, and that's a really great point actually, because that is somewhat of an issue with this whole discussion, right? But the issue is that there were reformations and there were renaissances within the religious community, and for a large part, when you got to the late 1800s, early 1900s, um, it looked like religion had kind of run its course in terms of the atrocities that, and not just the atrocities, but you also had like I mean, there's a lot of shit that religions have done that is horrible, right? But I guess the point is, the difference is that prior to the 19th century, it was religion, large religious organizations that were waging war on each other. And then when you look at post 19th century, it was not necessarily religion, but it was the ideologies. And I think that Nietzsche's point was not that either one were good, but that the declaration that God was dead is not a good thing, because he saw the fact that we don't know how to replace it, and human beings
Well,
struggle with
but
this.
but but we
Yeah.
do know how to replace it. Like for instance, so God, how about this? Like I think like Darwinian evolution can perfectly explain how morality works. Right? It's based off of well being. Like if you don't care about yourself, then you're probably not going to care about things around you. Right? So for instance, this. So let's say there's two apes walking through the woods, right? And a lion pops out. Ape one cares about his well being. Ape two does not care about his well being, right? So ape one is going to run away from the lion, right? Ape two is just going to sit there and he's just going to get eaten, right? So he's not going to reproduce. So what you're going to have left is just the ape that cares about himself. So he's going to reproduce other apes that also care about themselves, right? So I mean, this it worked like this, like even before the dawn of religion, before the dawn of civilization. So like if people can, if like if two apes can do that and produce a uh, a population of human beings that care about themselves like innately and care about well-being innately, I don't see why you need a religion to help that
So
or to support it.
let me tell you how my professor would respond to you, because what you're doing is you're looking at nature and you're ignoring the teleological implications of nature. And this is what he freaking hammered me on in class, and I was a little embarrassed, I would say. But the teleological implications of nature mean that there's some inherent value in nature. So what you're doing is you're appealing to nature to derive a value. And you can't do that
No. I'm
unless
not. I'm not. I'm not. So like
you just gave an example of
no.
an
So
ape in nature.
what I'm explaining was how humans all came to do. derive to all care about well-being. I'm not saying that they should care about that or nature had created that value. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's just a fact that they do.
Okay. Well, then
Like,
we're on the same page then. So at least we get all right. So we agree that there's no inherent value in nature because that would be teleological and that would require a metaphysical creator and intentionality. Let's
mhm.
throw that to the side. So then, because I actually agree with you on that point. So then, yes, I believe that there is a morality baked into the biology and the evolutionary biology of human beings. Um, but the
Okay,
problem with that,
okay, go ahead.
because
Yeah, yeah,
there's a lot to this. I mean,
yeah.
we haven't even covered primatology
Sure,
because
but
I'll tell you that
you was about.
some of the most brutal creatures on this planet are primates.
I mean,
This
yeah, I mean,
chimp,
humans,
well,
humans.
no,
Yeah, I know you was about
chimpanzees
chimpanzees. Yeah,
probably,
I know, but
but
you about to
so
answer the question I was about to ask. Just to remind you, because you had said that that more like morality and the care for well being is like baked into human beings. So
there's
like
an empathy,
what I
there's
want
a
to
level
know
of
is
empathy.
what
Yeah.
what I want to know if it's baked into if it's already baked into us. Why do we need religion to tell us what to do?
Well, because the morality that is baked into us in terms of our evolutionary and biological drives is not sufficient to like actually encompass everything else.
Okay, how about this? Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me, like,
I mean, you can kind of
what
get
could
by, but
what could religious morality do that secular morality couldn't? What does that have to offer?
well, that depends on the subject, right? I
Any
mean,
pick a subject, the most the
I mean, no,
biggest, most
it
alarming one.
literally it depends on the subject. I mean,
Well,
you've
I'm just
got
saying pick one.
let's say you got 20 humans, right?
Hmm.
Some of them are going to react differently to the idea that they were created and that they have a purpose and that there's an omnipotent God versus everything is meaningless because of nihilism. There is no purpose, there is no meaning. You have to create your own ethic. You're going to have different reactions. My whole argument in this whole debate was some people need religion because we're hardwired. It seems to me, and I could be wrong,
Hmm.
if there's someone smarter than me, there's plenty of people smarter than me that want to argue against me, sure. But it seems to me that we are hardwired to need some type of operating system within this world. And the
I
religious
don't
type
disagree with
tends to
that.
be the
So
one that works for some people.
sure, okay, but
I struggle with
what?
nihilism.
Okay,
I mean,
can
anyone who's literally thought about the world has to struggle with nihilism because it's a fact if you've really thought through things.
sure. So okay, but what I want to know, like, give me a scenario, whereas if you applied religious morals, you would have a moral outcome. Give me some scenario.
You cut out a little bit. You're saying where a
Okay,
religious person can be
yeah,
more
I'm
moral
sorry, I cut out.
than a
Yes,
normal than
no,
someone without religion?
like so. I want to give me a scenario. Whereas if we were to apply secular morals, you would have a bad outcome. But then if you applied religious
You
morals,
can
you
have
would
a
have a
you can
good
have
outcome.
I would say that you'd have a better outcome if you were secular. I'm not saying that you can't have a better outcome if you're secular. I
Sure.
agree. I would argue for a secular morality. The problem is that a lot of people wouldn't be able to move that in that direction.
So okay, so like, what am I? You said earlier that secular morals are insufficient, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
What I'm saying is that
what are
let's
the
say we have
gaps in secular
so
morals that religious morals fill?
so let's say we have 10 people, right?
Mhm.
My point is that robbing, let's say 6 out of the 10 people of what their religious morality and worldview is not beneficial to everyone. That it's okay to let them think the way they think, insofar that we have rules to limit the transgressions of those people on other people who have different beliefs. My solution is not to get rid of religion. It's to allow a coexistence between the secular and those that are religious. And that to me is the optimal way to live in life. I mean, I have a deep respect for religious people. You know what? You know why? Because
Mhm.
they're some of the best people in the world.
Sure. Okay. So like maybe you don't know what I'm asking. So all right. So okay, you have us two societies. One has secular morals. one has religious morals. And let's say the people in each society are more or less just like the people in uh, the real world, right? Okay, tell me which one is going to excel, or and which one isn't, and tell me why. Tell me why the religious society would prevail over the non-religious one.
That's not the reality we live in. We
No,
live in a
what
reality
that's what I'm saying. It's a
You want me to give you a
hypothetical.
hypothetical?
Yeah, no, I'm actually
And
asking my
okay,
hypothetical. Like, you
okay,
have two
I'll give you
societies.
no, no, I'll give you a hypothetical. And this is a utopian hypothetical, just so you know. And you
Sure.
know the dangers of utopian ideals.
Well,
You
I mean, I'm not
and
looking for a utopia. What I'm saying,
No, you're
I'm,
asking for a perfect society that has no religious belief.
no, I'm not. I'm not asking that. So I'm asking,
Oh,
you,
okay.
you have two societies. One has morals. One has religious morality.
Which are
The
flawed,
other has secular morality. What
which in
benefit does the
theory is not flawed.
You have two
That's the
what
minutes
problem. Is
left
like
before this call
it.
ends.
Oh,
say
oh
it
yeah,
again?
you're right. We got
You
two
have 2
minutes.
minutes left before the call ends. You need to use the Now That's Debatable stream when you set up calls. Just wanted to let
Also,
you know.
so it's not. Is it going to end? Like,
It's
give
gonna
me
end in like
let's
1 minute.
let me expand. Let me extend the call.
If you do
One.
that, you're gonna have to pay for it. If you just used our service, it's already paid for.
Oh, geez. Is there a way to change this, like,
Not
without
in the
losing a lot?
middle of a meeting, no.
Darn it.
It's okay. We have 1 minute and a half. I can just sum up really quick, and then you can sum up. But to answer your question, in theory, a
Mm-hmm.
secular society would be the better option, in my opinion. If it was based off science and reason, that's the society I'd love to be in the future. But I just don't know that we're capable of that. Human beings, like I said, tend to fall back on ideology
Could you
and their
stop right there?
fundamental drives.
Hey, stop. Let's just start a new stream to
You
continue.
don't need to start a new stream. You need to start a new meeting.
Well, I'll do that. Or can you do that?
Yeah, I'll get to work on
There we-
it. You keep
Okay,
talking.
thank you. Okay. All right. So yeah, keep your email open, and we'll both just jump onto the new stream. Um, sorry guys, but go ahead, Morpheus.
No, I was saying, in theory, and that's the problem is a lot of these academic ideas, in theory, work really great. You know, communism and even I would say intersectionality, neo-Marxism. Like in theory they work great, but in reality they don't. And so that's why like there's a problem here. It's like it's in theory a secular humanist society that
It's about to
puts
end right now.
science